こちらはジョシュっていうんだけど、トラビス CI の人ですね。ジョシュはトラビス CI の CPO なんですが、CPO は Chief Product Officer だけど、このラップトップに書いてあるのは Chief Post-it Officer ポスティットの小さいノート減るもの Chief Post-it Officer なんかノートが好きだそうだと思いますから、トラビス CI のことはもちろん皆さんが知ってると思いますけど、このすごく面白いシールもいっぱい持ってきましたので、そこに置いてあると帰りにもらってください。そう、トラビス CI の皆さんはやってるものはあなたたちの PR にたまに赤いバツ出てくるでしょ。私はいつも赤いバツ出てくる。それは彼のせいですよ。ではジョスさんどうぞ。
Hello. Ooh. Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi. Good afternoon. Or, as we say in New Zealand, kia ora. Kia ora. Or konnichiwa. Domo. Domo domo domo. Domo domo. Domo. Yabai. I've been practicing. So my name's Josh Kalderimis. I'm here to talk about Beyond Saas and building for the enterprise. But before we get started, it's the end, well, coming to the end of the conference. I can see people are getting a little bit tired, so do me a favor. Everyone stand up. Stand up. Yep. And just remember, I can see you from up here, so if you don't stand up, I'm just going to point you out. This is good. This is good. No, stand up. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now, we all know Dragon Ball Z, right? Yep. So I want you to do me a favor. In Dragon Ball Z, I remember watching this as a kid. And I remember the very first time Goku got to fight Frieza. And during that time, he had to create a very big energy, I'm going to call it an energy ball, because that's all I know. Hey, you're not standing up. Well, he's good at this, okay? He's learned, okay? I want you all to do me a favor and put your hands up in the air. Yep. Like this, like you're creating an energy ball, and I want you all to say, with a little bit of energy, as much energy as you can, ah! Okay, go! Ah! I also want to teach you a lesson that that's the power of the stage. I can make you do that. Now you can sit down. Okay. I'm being clapped to make you stand up. That's great. Okay, so a little bit about me before we get started. As I said, I'm from New Zealand, this tiny little island down here. We are known for sheep, and for hobbits, and some business time. I come from this city called Wellington, beautiful Wellington, absolutely fantastic, absolutely beautiful at night. We were the inventor of the flat white. If an Australian says otherwise, they're lying. Do not trust Australians. We're also known for our flying into Wellington Airport. It's one of the windiest airports in the world with an incredibly short runway. I've been on one of these flights before. It's kind of like when you're looking at, I was in a very small plane at the time, and you could see out the pilot's window, and you could see the runway, and then the wind would blow, and you could see the hill. And then you'd see the runway, and that's while you were landing. So it's a great adventure. I now live in Berlin, beautiful Berlin. Everywhere's beautiful to me. Known for its Brandenburg Gate, its techno raves, that's always got a GitHub or two there, its wall, or its old wall, and also, funnily enough, for David Hasselhoff. I actually think that this was an American prank, because David Hasselhoff sang on top of the Berlin Wall as it was coming down, and it was so bad, the song was so bad that it was rated by AOL Times Music, something or other, as the 94th worst song in the world. And their testament was that his music is a testament to the awfulness of some music that can still bring people together. And he still persists to this day. But back to the talk. We're at the end of RubyKaigi 2016. I'm Josh. And I work at this company called Travis CI, and I'm here to talk about enterprise, because enterprise isn't it a fun thing to talk about? We all love enterprise, but what I wanted to kind of talk about is how we built enterprise. And there are three things I would like you to take away from this talk today. The first being, focus on building a great SaaS product and an awesome community first. We'll get to this. Let enterprise come to you, and buy the tooling, don't build it. So what is Travis Enterprise? Well, it's Travis, but a little bit smarter. It's meant for your office. Yeah. So a little bit of background. To understand the complexities about building enterprise software, I'm going to give you a little walkthrough of why it was so complex and interesting for us and what we learned out of the process. I'm a stories kind of guy. We've had enough technical talks. So as I said, I work for this man here, Mr. Red Moustache, and we've slowly over the last 4 years, we've been a company for 4 years, have grown to 23 different people. We're half women, we're half remote, and we're 23 awesome people from everywhere. If you don't know us, we're a hosted continuous integration service. So essentially, we test your code. Or even more so, when you push to GitHub, we test your code. Now, on the .org platform where we test open source products, we have about 200,000 users. About 300,000 active open source projects are testing on us every month. And we run about 250,000 jobs per day. So that kind of equates to about 250,000 VMs or containers we start and then throw away. We run everything in an isolated environment, and then we just throw it away. A lot of this was created by this man, Mr. Sven Fuchs. You might know Sven from either the Twitters or from his creation of I18N. So this is how a lot of Rails applications do translations within their projects. We created it as our way of helping open source. It was just a fun Ruby project, and we just wanted to help people build better applications. By helping you build better open source projects and libraries, we wanted to give people the certainty and confidence of what they were building later on. Well, 2 people, Sven and I, grew to 4 people. We even got a team outfit. It even had this ability of going all the way to the top, and it even had a summer edition. Now, to create a company, we decided let's do something different. What we want to do is we tried crowdfunding. So we'd been running this for a while, and we decided, hey, maybe let's make this our job. We're doing about 40 hours a week on our normal job and then 40 hours a week on Travis, so we thought, let's just make this full-time. So we did crowdfunding, and we started a website called love.travisi.org, and people could donate. And from that, we raised about 140,000. So we raised essentially a Kickstarter on a little thing that Stripe and Sven built. And we had all these other companies donate to us, including like Source Labs and GitHub's up there and Stripe and Zendesk. And now a lot of these people are also our customers. So they just wanted to use Travis for private testing. What we found is that Travis CI was our MVP, our most minimal viable product, while crowdfunding was our confirmation that maybe we had something there. So what you might all know is that if you go to a GitHub project, a lot of GitHub projects out there, there's a little badge, a little build passing or build failing, and that's usually us. And that usually leads to travisi.org. So that's our open source, where we do open source testing. We also have travisi.com. And a lot of this history was because from this crowdfunding, we didn't want to use people's money towards the private endeavor, and we felt a bit weird, so we created the website for private and had wanted to keep things a bit more secure. There was some private code. But out of all of this, when we first started, everything was just one big Rails app. And we went the next step. We decided, oh, well, let's start breaking some of this up. We've got the worker, and we've got logs processing. So we started going into a semi-SOA kind of based architecture. And we started using different technologies to go with it because we could do that now. So we had MRI, JRuby, and some Go. And of course, we love Saas ourselves. And on top of that, we love PaaS and Saas. So, we use things like Heroku. We use Postgres, Redis, Memcache. We've got a whole bunch to make Travis work. And to make Travis work, this is actually our architecture diagram. This was created by some juniors that started with us. We started like a junior program, and they went ahead and created an architecture diagram of what keeps Travis working. And I want you to take special note of a couple of things shortly, but look at the red sections. You might not be able to read it out from far out, but it says uses Travis Core, and we'll get to that. All of those applications, all of those parts, breaks down to this. About 9 or 10 different applications to keep Travis working in various forms. And we'll take away the Travis part, so it's a little bit easier to kind of parse. But we've got API and web for the UI, listener listens to requests from GitHub, gatekeeper processes them, hub listens for the state updates from the worker, logs is our logs processor listening to standard out on the workers. We sync everyone's information from the GitHub API every day. We schedule jobs to be run. We have live updates as well for WebSockets. Tasks is essentially like notifications, webhooks, emails, and then we've got build, which creates the build scripts, and admin, which is a private tool. But out of this, there are 4 applications that use Travis Core. Now, Travis Core is even more complex because, as I said earlier, we have .org and .com. And we get to this nice complicated part of having Travis Pro Core. So if we look at what it takes to run our .com platform, we have 3 extra applications. I've taken admin out, but 3 extra applications that also have core in there. As an example, think about Travis Hub. So Travis Core is a library, and Travis Hub is one of the applications running. And it relies on Travis Core. And now we have our .com platform. And this is what it looks like. So Travis Pro Hub uses Travis Hub, which uses Travis Core, and Pro Hub also uses Pro Core. It's an absolute mess. It's a mind-blowing explosion of mess, of complication. It slows down development a lot. But of course, nothing is ever perfect. While we were going ahead and improving, removing core, it's our goal to remove core from everything so every app stands on its own. A lot of this came from just history, from development over time. But nothing is ever perfect. We always want to make things better in terms of our code and technical debt. But while we're doing this and while we're improving this, along comes our first potential customer. Which kind of brings me to, how did we then start building enterprise? So the idea is as soon as you don't expect some things to happen. While we're doing all of this and improving our code, a customer comes to us. And the big question is, where do you start? Where do we start with enterprise? There is a lot going on in our applications. How do we put it together? Do we sign a deal first? I mean, it's only a potential. It's someone talking to us about Travis Enterprise, running it within their firewall. Is it a distraction or an opportunity? We were a team of 7 at the time. And during this time, there's a lot to do. We've got a lot of growth happening. We're trying to build a business and a sustainable business with .com for testing private projects. We have .org and public projects flying through the roof. We have VM issues. We have cookbook issues. Is this a good thing to start working on when we're already busy as we are? And really, what are the goals? Like, if someone comes and talks to you and says you should build this product, what are the goals of building this? Well, the goals are different for you and for the customer. As an example, it needs to be easy to install. Now, that's a shared goal. You want it to be easy to install because there's less support, and for them, they want it easy to be installed so it's easier for them to get up and running. It has to be secure. For them, security is about someone not being able to access it. There are no security leaks. On your side, you don't want them to read your code, and then they can run this without even paying you a cent. Of course, authorized use only. So, for example, licensing. How are they going to pay for this? How many users can use it? Can they have a site license? Can they just use it? And most importantly, if you're going to work on enterprise, you want to make sure you're not forking your code and running a separate set of code. So you want the same code base. You want the development of this tool to be on the same code base. I cannot stress that enough, because if you're going to fork and then work on something, merging and changes over time becomes more and more complicated. So what about scaling this? We've got a lot of experience in scaling our own product over time because we use tools like Heroku, but do they need to scale it? Well, we took the calculated risk as well that we know that 187,000 people using our own product was working fine on Heroku with 5 web dynos. If you've got 500 users on one dyno or one machine, that should be enough. So we said we don't need to scale this right now. And what we decided to do is focus on using tools that they would be using and that we use ourselves as well. So Docker. Docker is a very good example of being able to bundle something up into a container and ship containers which then people can then use on Amazon or VMware or OpenStack. So we wanted to reuse technologies that people felt comfortable with, and especially with our workers, because you wanted people to be able to choose where they run this. So in the Docker world though, Docker would say every single application, build, scheduler, hub, gatekeeper, logs, they should all be their own containers. Then you've got questions of Redis and the database and Pusher and other Redises. They should also be their own containers. That would mean that we'd be running about 15 to 20 different containers. But we decided to cheat. We ran a mega container. So what I mean by this is we put every single application in there, we put every single service in there, and then we start sbin init. And that cheats, because what it actually does is it starts a full virtual machine. Starts all the services, starts upstart, everything starts and is managed by it completely. It made installation super simple, because all they had to really do was to do a Docker pull. And now you had your container there with everything set up. You didn't have to do 20 different Docker pulls. We didn't have to do 20 different images. It was one image. And then there was only a little bit of configuration. So we had what we called a license.yaml file and a whole bunch of bash scripts. And this license file in there had a signature and how many users, and it was our way of limiting what people could do. So this was all home built. The trouble is while we're doing this, we've got a team working on the main product, and we broke the cardinal rule. We did say earlier that we did not want to do this in a forked project, but instead of doing forks, we just did branches. And then they just became long-lived branches. And then they became lots of long-lived branches, and then they became lots of very long-lived branches. And it's a big mess when it comes to merging, because there's lots of merging. And now you've got all these branches, and you're doing all this merging, and it starts impacting on normal code development. Well, development of enterprise was more than we thought. There was our idea as we were a team of developers. The 4 of us when we started, when we grew to 7, and we're now 23, the majority of us are developers at heart. The 4 of us when we started were developers. And when someone talks, when we had our first person reach out and say, we would like to use this behind our firewall, the first thing that goes through our mind is, oh, we just need to change this and this little configuration option and maybe this. Oh, this should be easy. The truth is, it was a lot of work, and it's more than we thought. We had something that worked, but it just didn't feel complete. It works. Well, it worked at the time. It still works, don't get me wrong. But in getting this all up and running was us thinking it would be easy, then we get it working, and, it's essentially an MVP. Well, then we're actually very lucky and someone called us. So there is a company called Replicated. And what their entire idea is to make packaging and shipping enterprise software easy. It's all about using Docker. You get a whole lot for a little. And the entire idea is we can continue shipping a mega container, but now we can actually start removing our need to build an enterprise licensing or distribution or the bash scripts. In fact, now you get a nice UI. And if anyone actually uses GitHub Enterprise, they would actually notice a lot of these things, these elements, to make it look familiar. So what you do is you upload your license, and then it downloads everything and sets it up. You get graphs on CPU and memory. You get backups, and it tells you that it's running. You get a nice config screen. All of these things we didn't have to build. You get license information to check if there's a new thing or a new version available, and even an audit log if someone checks in. And the most important thing, because this is a thing that you won't usually, or this is one of the things that I would say that you lose a little bit control of, but support. Because when there is a bug in your main program, your main product, you can just go to the logs, you can go to your exception tracker. Now you have no option to do that. But what you do for enterprise is you create an easy way for them to send you this information. So it's called a support bundle. And then on the website for ourselves, for management, we can cut a new release. So you can see here we created this release, and we've got the same version in stable and beta, which are different channels for release. We have all of our customers and what version that they're on. And then we can also have a visual way of putting together the admin screen. So what did we really get out of this? Why is it that we should actually care about using someone else's tool? Well, importantly, we get a very solid install experience. We get a lot of extra features that we didn't even have to build. More importantly, though, we get an extension of our team. We get people to build this for us, and we don't spend our time building it. We get a tool that allows us to focus on providing value in our product versus providing value in the installation of a product we still considered at that time beta. So instead of us spending a whole lot of money and time and effort in building a better way to install, we could let someone else do that. So what did we actually learn out of all this? I've covered a lot. I've also rushed through a lot. Travis CI, we can scale and run ourselves. It's taken a lot of time to get it where it is, and there's still a lot to improve. Enterprise has been something that we started on the side from a customer asking us about it. And at the time, it was also more work than we thought it would be. But what you should take out of this, what are the main lessons to learn out of this, is if you're going to build enterprise software, if you're going to take your product and then make it available behind a firewall, is you should find the right early customers and users. So the idea is that you do not want to build a product with 20, 30, 50 different people asking you to build it very quickly. You should work with a handful of customers to get early feedback and build it right. Take your time, figure out what the install experience is and the bugs that they run into. So finding the right people to help you build it makes it easier. Pricing is really hard. Now, we cheated a little bit. The main part is don't undervalue your team's work. Do not undervalue your product. As I said before, we're all developers. Pricing is not something that we'd all been reading up upon. But what we did know is GitHub already had an enterprise product, and they had pricing. So what we did is we took that amount and we added money to it. So it instantly gave us a way to focus on where we could start with pricing. Our most valued piece of pricing advice came from a potential investor at the time. And it was essentially, at that time for the hosted product, it was don't charge anything under 100. And then after reading and doing lots of reading, the next pricing advice came from a book that I kind of boiled down to, you pick a price and you keep doubling it until it makes you feel uncomfortable. And then you double it again, and then you double it again. But ultimately, what you want to do is find a pricing mechanism that doesn't box you in as well. Things like site licenses, so they can, customers can run it anywhere at any time. That's, I would say, bad advice. Always be closing. Funnily enough, I've never actually seen this movie. Darnish swears by it. But what you want to do is make sure, you have to be aware that selling a product takes a lot of time. Selling an enterprise product takes even more time. There's trials, extensions to the trial, going through contracts, going through sales, and waiting for payment. A typical sales cycle could lead from a month just for the trial, and then an extra month for any legal negotiations, and extra month for payment. So you can expect anywhere between 2 to 6 months for payment and for signing a license agreement, which is time, and it's a distraction, and you need someone to do that. One thing that actually Darnish, he's sitting at the back over there, or in the middle. Put up your hand, Darnish. Hi, Darnish. When he first joined us, we actually decided, how can we actually get people to pay quicker? And he created a Sinatra app for a bit of fun, and it was connected to Stripe, and we put it behind HTTPS, and it was just this. It was this page that had a customer's name, what they were paying for, like a description, and then an amount. And then it sent them to Stripe, and we wanted to test it out. So we had our first customer go, yep, can we pay via credit card? We sent them to this. A day or 2 hours later, while we were walking to dinner, the first customer paid with a site that looked nowhere near as professional as this one. And we were like, oh wow, that actually worked. We can actually maybe use this more. So you can find ways to make it easier, and you can test it out. This was an MVP. We've still got to improve it further, but find ways to make it easier to get that money as well. Legal licensing agreements are a nightmare. You need to find something that protects you, and then you're going to have every customer want you to change it. Unlimited liability is something that you need to be very careful of, because it essentially says that if a company gets sued for something that's wrong with your code, because you're the small fish and they're the big fish, let's say you sell your product to big mega company, and you're a team of 4 or 5, and then they get sued for something that you've done wrong in your code. Now, the unlimited liability would mean that if the person suing the big company wins, the big company could pass on all of those costs to you. Limited liability restricts that. You need to look into that, and it's something to be very aware of. Licensing agreements are really hard because every larger customer is going to try and ask for changes. So put a cap on it. Say that we'll only make changes if it's X value. And customers are always going to make requests. There's always going to be requests for a new feature. For example, the big things that we're going through at the moment is backups, high availability as well, and special APIs. Now, all of these that you want, but how do you set expectations? How do you decide what is that you work on next? The importance of that issue. Every customer is going to give a different value of importance. And then it's going to be, we're only going to buy this product when you've actually completed X and Y. So you have to be very careful about customer requests. Even more careful are ones that, we want this feature, but it's not something that you want in your main product. How do you add a feature? Do you even want to do that? Add a feature that you don't even want to expose to your normal customers. I would generally say no. You do not want to spend your time and money unless it is incredibly worth it. If it's something that is going to be a make or break for the company, I can't tell you not to work on it, but be very careful of things like that. And building an enterprise product, building an extension to your normal SaaS product requires the entire team to sign up for it. If you're a team of 4 and one person says, I'm going to go off and build enterprise, you should be very careful of that. You should probably stop that. You should all be invested in this, because there's development, there's support, there's ongoing releases, there's all those customer requests. Building enterprise should be something that you and your entire team buy into and agree to. And communication is, communication to your customers is as important as the product itself. Changelog notes, release notes, crazy amounts of docs, mailing list. These are things that if you just tune at the start and get right, it makes the customers feel a lot happier because they know what's going on. And very important, this is very important to the point of us using Replicated. Do not build it, buy it. For you to spend time and effort and team effort in building those UIs is a complete distraction. The more that you can find other products to do the work for you so you can focus on the core product and what you do best and what value your product is providing is what you should be focusing on. You should not be saying, you know what, I know that there's this tool out there, but I'm going to build a different way to do it. Like, oh, credit card payments. I think we'll build a better way to do credit card payments. Don't do that when there's a swath of great products out there to help you along. So if you've got the ability to buy it, please don't build it. For example, we use Close.io for our sales customer information. We use Replicated for installation and licensing. And if you've got a moment, you should go to the Baremetrics blog, baremetrics.com, and there's a build it and buy it calculator, which will also give you a good understanding of why you should not be building it. So my time's running out. What can we all take away from this? What do I want you to take away from this? Well, first off, I want you to be focused on building a great product. Building the great product is first and foremost what we should be doing. And when I say great product, I mean a great SaaS product, because why people come to you and say, hey, I would like to use you for behind our firewall is because you should be building a great community. And then from building a great community, enterprise comes to you. The best way to sell your product is by having people from the ground up saying, I want to use the same tool I use for open source, or the same tool I use at home. By building a great community, they become your greatest cheerleaders and promoters, and they're the ones that get you into enterprise. If enterprise knocks, if enterprise approaches you, if your first customer says, hey, I'd like it, make sure it's a team decision that you answer it. It should be something that you all agree to. It should not be a lone wolf. Make sure that everyone wants to buy into it. And thank you very much.
どうもありがとうございました、ジョスさん。